So we're going to continue. Now we need to create the functionality for the new post. So let's create that. We already have the component. So, but first of all, since we are in app module, we are going to need to import something because we want to use forms. So we want to import, let me just add it here. We want to import I'm going to use only reactive forms module, but you could use forms module, so let's import those and you add them here inside imports, forms module and reactive forms module. Both are coming from Angular Forms. So if you have these two modules here, you will need to come to the module you have here, the add post module, and add what you're going to use here to and import it. Okay, so you need to do this step. So now we are able to start working. We can start working with this. So what we're going to do first is to import a few things from the forms. I'm going to import form group, form control, and validators from Angular Forms. Now I'm going to import the router from Angular Router, and here we're going to import the service. Let's add it here, service, and we need to import the model. We're going to use a model for the post. Okay, so let's say post model, and since we're going to need this on the rest of the application, let's add them ng generate service, and I'm going to call it Firebase, just like that. Yeah, let's wait for this. Okay, it's added, ng serve. Let's start the application again. Okay, you can see that here we have the module, the Firebase service.ts, and let's import that here. So the naming is going to be Firebase service because it adds the word service to whatever we type there. So you can see we have this Firebase service. So we import the Firebase service, save that, and we're going to add another directory folder here that is going to be models, and we want the post post.ts, the post interface. Okay, so this interface is going to be, okay, export interface. We're going to export it in order to use it. The name is going to be post, and we're going to have several things here. The title, that is going to be a string. The content of the post, that also is going to be a string. The cover, sometimes we are going to, what the fuck? We're going to need the cover, okay? And some other times we're not going to use it, like when we are updating. So that's why we add this sign, question sign there. ID, sometimes we're going to need the ID and some others no. So let's say here all cover, because this is going to be useful when we update. So let's say a string 2 there. Let's go with tags, and now since we're going to handle tags, different tags, we're going to use an array of strings. Now we are going to have remove tags, all this is going to be useful. You will see a why that is also going to be an array of strings. We have this add tags. I'm adding this here because since it's going to ask us, or it's going to tell us that we don't have these specific things, okay, I better add them inside the model. And the last one is going to be file ref, and also is optional string. Okay, so we have the post interface. So we're going to import that. Let's say import from, this one is in models, the name is post, and we are exporting the interface called post. So let's have that there. Now let's say private, let's add let's inject the functionality into our constructor. So Firebase service is going to be of type Firebase service, and the router is going to be type router. And now we need to add a form. So I'm going to define it here. Let's define two things first. That is the tags, that is going to be an empty array of type any. Okay, and an image, since we're going to handle the image, a file. Okay, then this is just going to be of type any. We're going to need something once we create the service, once we add the functionality, but let's skip that and let's create this form. I'm just going to copy and paste it. This post form is going to be a new form group, okay, and this is these are the inputs that we are going to have, okay, in this form: the title, content, cover, and tags, and we're going to set them as required. The first value here is the value by default, so it's going to be empty by default, okay, and we will create the form in the HTML in a second, but I'm going to add another function here. Let's type this: public handle input is going to take an event of type event, and since we have an image here and this function is going to handle the file input, we're going to say this, that image equals to event that target, and we add this like this, files. Okay, so the event is going to have the files of the file input, and we can also say, let's say console.log this.image, so we can see what we are getting there. Okay, we're going to use that in a second, so don't worry. I'm just adding that right now. Okay, so we have this, and this should be all for now. So let's go to, let me close this since we have all that. We're going to work with this in a second, so let me just close these ones and open the add post component, since we're going to create the section, and this one is going to be, well, let me check. Okay, we're going to add the form first. So let me just highlight that. Okay, I'm going to do this. I'm just going to add the form. Okay, so we're going to run the add post when we submit the form. So let me just close this form right away, so we don't have any error. Okay, I'm going to add these two. So let's say create a new post, fill the form below to create it. Why is this thing? And here we're going to create some form controls. That is just a div, so we can have some styling. This is going to be the title. Okay, let's save it and let's see how this is looking. Okay, this is just creating the form. So since we have a form group called post form, that is this one. Okay, we need to add them these names inside the form control name. So we just define form control name and the name that we want to handle here. No, we don't want that. Okay, and it's the same for the rest. So this one is just an input type text. The next one is just a text area for control name content. Let me just, that is, yes, it's a text area. The next one is going to be the cover, that is the file input. I hate that this is okay, it's only going to have this class cover, so we can style it. So yeah, it's just a type file id cover and form control name cover, and it's going to handle a change event, and it's going to call the input, the handle input, with the event. The event is just well, from this event we're going to get the target and the files that are inside this input. Okay, once they change, once the user selects a file, because we're only going to handle one file. But we are missing something, that is the tags. So let's say we're going to add it like this. So we have just the let's close it. Okay, so we have only the selection. Okay, but the tags are going to come from Firebase. So let's just have the skeleton here. So this is the tags label, and we're going to handle inside here a select. Let's type this select. I'm just going to add id tags, form control name, form control name equal to tags. Remember that the control names need to match what we have here, the title, content, cover, and tags. And here we're going to say multiple to allow multiple tags. Okay, now the option is going to be, let's say option 1, because this is going to be rendered using what we have in the database. Right now we don't have anything, so you can see how this is showing. And yeah, we shouldn't get any error there. Okay, so let's actually go. I'm going to open my Firebase console to add what we have. So I will show you first on the other project the contents of the tags, so you can see it's opening. So It seems I don't have it there. It's opening. Okay, so let's just create the tags. So we need to create this database. This one is okay. And next. Let's wait for that. So let's start building the service. So we can call. We still don't have the tags, but we will have them in after we finish this. We will add them, so don't worry about it. Let's just add inside the service the calls for the tags. So once we add them inside the database, okay, so we are going to create a collection called tags in a second. Let me just cancel this. So give me a second. Why this thing is okay. So yeah, sorry for the. So we need to import a few things here. We're going to import Angular Firestore and Fire Storage from the Angular Fire package. Okay. Now, since we're going to use some redirections here, I'm going to use the router from Angular Router. This is the service, okay, the Firebase service. Now we are going to import. Let's import from RxJs. Let's import the observable. Wait the fuck? What the hell? Let's import observable. And did I copy that? Well, and a behavior subject. We are going to need the behavior subject to create a stream, so we can show the percentage, okay, that is appearing with the file uploads. And yeah, that's mostly what we're going to do with that. So from the operators, we need some things. Import from RxJs operators. We need the map, and we need take. So we're not going to use too many RxJS operators or a ton of functionality about RxJS. We're just only going to handle the subscriptions inside a promise, so we can resolve that. I'm not going to let the stream go out of this service. Okay, I'm just going to enclose the subscription inside a promise and resolve that. Wait for the subscription to finish using RxJS and the subscribe, and then return inside the same function the information. Okay, so I'm just going to show you that you can do that. And we need also the model, so let me just copy this. So we have that. We need now the private Firestore. It's going to be type Angular Firestore. No, Fire the store private storage. I have okay storage Angular Fire storage now, and the router private router is type router. Okay, so we have our definitions there. Now let's define some variables here so we can use them. File. Let me just copy this. Okay, these are just when we get to RxJS, we're going to I'm going to type them, okay, but now this is just only the definition. So we want for the file uploads the file path, and we want to have the percentage, okay, that is going to be an observable of type number, or well, an observable, yeah, and this one is going to be a string, okay. So this is going to be the download URL. It's going to create an observable of those, okay. So, or better said, these two are observables that are coming from Firebase, okay. So we need to handle those. Now we're going to create a new public. We can add, so you don't have to or you are not missing anything. Just add public to all of this, because this is just a way, in case you see something like this, this is public by default, okay. So, but let's just add that, the keyword, the public keyword, so you can see and you don't get confused. So you're going to do something with this percentage. So let's say public. We are just going to define this, okay, in order to have them, so we can use them later, and we don't have to define them later. So let's say percentage changes. Okay, this is going to be the behavior subject that is going to allow us to pass the subscription, okay, the stream, to show that inside the add post component, okay. So we can see the stream of the file upload. Let's say type any, just to get rid of any trouble we might have. So let's say this one is going to be a new behavior subject. So right now we only have the type defined. We need to also define again the type, okay, any, and what this is going to take is a value. So let's say this, that, percentage. So when you define the behavior subject, you always will need to set or define a value here to be used, okay. So that's why you will see the percentage and percentage changes together, okay. So let's add a little space in there so you can see that those two are together. And I'm getting this freaking cold, or seems I'm getting a cold. I don't know why. It's freaking hot outside, so sorry if you hear, you know, my nose running, but I need to record this thing. So in order to set the changes for this, okay, this is just defined. We are going to create a new function. So this function is going to pass the new values into the percentage, okay. Into the percentage changes, the new values for the percent. So let's say let's just add this set. We can set, we should be able to say public set percentage. Yep, percentage. See, okay, percentage. Now here we're going to receive something. So let's set percent or percentage any, type any right now. This is not going to return anything, void, and let's say this, that percentage is going to be equal to percentage that we get from here, that we pass, okay. So this is just going to define a function that receives a percentage, is going to store this percentage inside our variable that we have here in line 26, and it's going to set the new value onto these percentage changes, okay. So how we're going to do that? We're going to use this, that percent changes, okay, and we're going to say next that this method is going to allow us to pass the new value inside the behavior subject. Okay, so let's say percentage. So we're going to pass this one, not this as percentage, but what we are receiving in the we should be able to pass this, but let's just pass only what we are getting from the main function. Sorry. So we're going to use that later, but we are just going to define it here. It's going to be sitting there until we use them. You remember that we need some tags in order to show here. So we're going to create a function that is going to receive those. So let's create the collection. So let's see how this works. Okay, let's create the tags collection. Tags and next. So this is going to be a name. I think I have name. And okay, let me just, yep, I only have name. So let's say this is life. This is the value. This is the name of the field, and this is the value. So this is going to be type string. So let's say a life. Save, and it's going to create. Oh, that should, okay. I was like, what the hell? I hate that. Okay, it's taking a bit. So this is the only thing we're going to have. The name. We can also edit this document, okay, but we're just going to have this. So let's add another one that, let's say, is going to be live tech. Let's say tech, and let's say name, save, okay, and we now have two tags. Okay, tech and live. Now we should be able to get those with the next function. So let's create this next function that this is get all tags, and let's say public async get all tags, just like that. So first we're going to define this let tags. It's going to be you can say any array, and we need to set them, okay, to define it. So it's going to be just an empty array. Now we're going to do something kind of weird if you haven't seen this. So we're going to say, since we have the async, we're going to say await new promise. Let's pass the result, and here we're going to add a function. So what we are going to do here is to say, to call, okay, I don't know why that indented that way. So this.firestore, remember that we have up here Firestore, okay. This.firestore, that collection, so we are going to call the tags collection and say snapshot changes. But what we're going to do here is to get the stream of values and just subscribe to this inside this promise to get those. We are not going to use the stream, only to show you that you can just set everything inside here. Most of the times you will see projects where you don't need the subscription, okay, you only need the last part or the last value that is being given by the subscription, and you want to close that right away, okay. So that's what we are going to do in this demo, in this application. So we are going to use pipe. You don't need to import this one. This is only going to this is available, okay, but it's available for these observables. So you can see that this returns an observable document change action. So we're going to say, since we have the take one, what it does it set here, okay, emits only the first count values, okay, after the first value or stream is done. Remember that description is a constant stream, but after the first stream is done, then this is going to close, okay. So the subscription is going to be done when we use take one after the first set of values emitted, okay. So we don't need to unsubscribe when we use take one. You can also do take 5, okay, in case you know that it's going to change. But if you want, there are several operators that you can use. But since this is just to get our feet wet with RxJs and how it works, we're going to do this simple, how can I say this simple functionality, so you can see the structure of what you are going to do. We're not going to use switch map, merge all, and flat map. We're going to leave those to standalone examples that we will have on the channel later. So we are going to slowly get our mind wrapped around RxJS in mostly real cases, not just with authentication, but managing the inputs, events, canceling the HTTP requests, and all that. Okay, that. But we're going to do that on other examples, on other demos. So let's continue with this. This one is going to map the stream that comes from here, okay, that now is being cut to only one. So after the first one, this part is going to be over, and we're going to send the stream inside here, but we need to give it a name. So let's say changes, okay. So these changes, let's say, let's return changes, so you can see, and below here we can just sorry, that's not, this is the map, okay. Below here, remember, not source, subscribe. Remember that you need to subscribe in order for this to actually work, to actually do something, okay. So we need to subscribe, and let's say changes. We're going to change this in a second, okay. So this is just an example, So let's resolve here our promise, and let's return changes. So we should be able to return this inside here. So let me see where this thing ends, okay. You can add then and catch here. We will add that in a second. So let's say, yeah, let's keep it like that. Since we're getting the tags, we should receive the tags here and pass them into the subscription. So let me add that inside the add post. Oh, no, inside this one, okay, the ng on init. So let me just get my code so I don't make any mistake. So this one is going to be this, that we already have Firebase service added, this that Firebase service that get all tags. Then let's say tags and console.log tags, just like that. Let's see what happens. At post TS40. What is going on? Undefined source outpost component TS40. What is undefined? I'm trying to console. Oh, I think I know. Wait, what the heck? Okay, it's this one. I think I know why. Because I'm not returning anything from this function. So let's just say let's just define something here so we can see what is going on. Let x type any, so return x equal to changes, and we need to resolve this. This is already resolved, and we need to return, let's say return x, so we can see, we should be able to see this. Okay, you can see something that is being returned. Actually, with this form, in this form, we need to return what is being resolved here from the subscription. Okay, so that's why we are setting x to be changes, and we are returning x at the end. Now you can see that we have this type added, and we have two inside this array, that is what is being responded by Firebase. So you can see we have a payload, and we should have the information. Okay, there's a ton of data here, but this will contain what we have. Let me show you what we have here inside the documents. Okay, but this is only the kind of the raw stream that we are only passing through the map, passing to the subscription, and returning. Okay, so we are going to do the next thing. Let me see, 37. So this is actually well, let's do it. Fuck it. Let's return this and show them there, and stop the video after we do that, because yeah, it could be complicated to wrap your head around this since you're doing some other things. You could say also, since we should be able to do it here, map changes, and we could say return changes again. Okay, so what you are going to change here, you are going to return it inside this map. This is how you're going to use with, I don't know, if you have several HTTP client calls that you want to handle, you could use something like flat map, although we don't have that added. But the stream is going to pass, okay, through all this until we say subscribe, and that's the end of the stream, and all the changes you do inside the this stream is going to be added inside this subscription. Okay, so it's going to be passed, not added, but passed inside this argument. You could also receive a tuple, I think it's called, that is kinda an array, changes to. Okay, in case you use something, I think combine latest is what returns a tuple. Tuple, I think it's called, I can't remember the name. But yeah, so let's return what we have from the tags. You can also store, let me just do this. If you have a call, but let's not complicate it more, okay? Because we're going to do that in another example that I have. So yeah, let's just continue with this, because if not, it's going to get more complex, and you know, no, let's continue with this. So we actually need to do something inside this map, because as you can see, we are returning kind of the raw stream that is being passed with a payload, that this is the part that we are interested in. So we're going to do the next thing. So let's add this, no, let's remove this, sorry, and let's remove the X, and let's just return changes right now, because we're not returning anything. This thing is not going to work. Okay, we are going to get this undefined because this is not returning anything. So let's actually do this. Okay, what we're going to do now is to define something. So let's say let's underscore tags is going to be an empty array, and since these are the documents, this is responding with an observable of documents. Okay, we are going to do the next thing. So let's say changes, these changes, okay, that for each we can loop through those and we can get a value. So let's say t for tags. Okay, so we don't complicate that more. Just to set a letter, this is only going to store what is going to be returned inside this for each. So let's say changes for each, and now we're going to say tags. So this is only to show you that you can manipulate the information here. Tags that push, since we have this array, and let's say ID T. Inside this T we have, you can see that we have the payload. We could also say payload. Okay, we have this payload inside the T, that is what I was showing you before. And we should be able to get the doc property. Okay, so I said at the beginning or inside the preview, I can remember that they changed how you are returning the information here. Okay, so I don't know if I'm going to follow what I have in the code, in my other code. So in fact, in my other code, I wasn't able to get the payload like this, but since, well, it seems that it's understanding what is going on. So let's say ID, and we're going to add this, that payload, that doc, and I think data is still a method. Okay, so we can say data and get the information here. So let's say now we're just pushing the ID, the document ID, and the document data inside these tags. Okay, so let's say I don't want to return changes because changes is the same stream that we were using. So I want to return what I changed, that is the tags. And these tags are now going to be passed here. So let's keep the naming because this is being passed, so you can understand what is going on. So I'm saying the array, I'm using the stream that is coming inside these changes. I'm setting the values inside the tags, okay, pushing those, returning the tags, that is what I changed, and this is actually what we are going to get inside the subscription. Okay, so we resolve our promise now, and at this point the subscription should be over because we are only calling it once. Okay, and instead of saying return changes, because we don't have changes anymore, let's say tags equals to underscore tags. So you can see that you can respond and manipulate the information inside this map. You could use switch map or other things. Okay, but let's start with the most basic thing. I'm also not an expert on this, so on RxJs I'm slowly getting my head around it, but I try to use it in more how can I say, in more applications, okay, using Angular, so we can get used to those. in different places, not only inside authentication and HTTP interceptors. So now, since we have this, I just want to call that the subscription and all this promise has been resolved. So let's say console.log tax fetched successfully, and let's say catch the error. So we're going to handle the error here, console.log the error, and let's say that. And now remember that this is what I set here, is declared but is not used. At this point, the subscription is over, the tax has been received and has been set inside this tax that is also an array. Okay, so we could also say any and use it like this. Okay, we're only going to pass what we have inside this tax inside this, so because it's out inside here. Okay, and let's return tax. That is what we have defined here. So let's remove that spacing and check. Okay, so you can see that we are successfully getting the ID and the name, and before we were only getting the raw response, okay, with all the information. But since we're manipulating information inside here, inside the map, we can change it. We could even, as I said, add another map, return the tags, and do some other things there. And yeah, so this is the first function that is only going to get us all the tags. And let's actually set the tags inside this. So we are only consoling this. So give me a second so I can see that. We should have a tags. Yep, we have these tags. So let's remove this and let's assign this tags to tags. So we have that. I'm not using the string because I don't care. I don't care if this thing changes, okay? Because when I change my routing, it's going to run again. So I don't care if this changes, and most of the time those are not going to change. That's why I don't care about the subscription. I just close the subscription right away after I get the values that I'm interested in and use what I need. Okay, that's what I'm doing. So now, since we have that defined, the tags defined, we're just going to loop. So let's delete this so we can build it again. And inside this, I'm going to say ng4 let tag of tags that the array we have defined is called tags, and let's say option value. We are going to set the value here. Okay, it's interpolation tag that ID. Yeah, the ID is what we're going to send as the value, and here we're only going to display the tag that name, and this should be okay. Okay, because I added, no, I'm wrong. Sorry, let's delete. What the hell I'm doing? That name. Let's cut this and let's add it inside here because we actually want to loop and create a new option, not a new form, a new select. And now what it's going to say, do you have an escape? Well, let's see where I have that. Okay, errors everywhere. Okay, so Control S to save that, and new post. Okay, you can see that we get those two. Tags fetched successfully, and you can see that we are successfully managing the information, handling the information inside the new promise. Okay, resolving that, and inside this, just waiting to the subscription for the subscription to end, and return that to the outside part of the function. Okay, and yeah, and that's it. Just returning what we have. Okay, what we are setting inside the subscription, and that's it. So let's finish that there because it's been like 50 minutes, and we just created the form and added the RxJS part inside the Firebase service. So let's continue with the form in the next video.